Hi guys, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande. In the previous video, we have seen what is a function type and how you can actually pass a function as an argument to another function in Swift. Because in Swift, functions are first order data types. Just like you can pass a variable, you can pass even a function. When we came to know what is the function type that is accepted by the sorted method, we were able to pretty much create a method called as sort order, which takes two arguments, person1 and person2, both of which are of person type, and then return a boolean. And the sorted function actually accepts a function type which takes two elements and return a boolean. And if you are wondering as a beginner, how should I come to know based on the documentation what a particular function expects as a function type, that is pretty easy to find out. You can just go to the documentation. I can just show you here. Go to the developer documentation, and in this case I am talking about arrays, and here you can find sorted by. And in the sorted by, if you go to the documentation, it basically says that sorted takes two elements and returns me a bool, and you can find out what is the actual documentation. This pretty much gives you a very good idea as to what need to be passed as an argument to a function. So we will go back, and that is the reason why we were passing this particular sort order to this particular function called as sorted by, and we were able to pretty much sort this particular array based on the age. And if you are wondering whether it is actually sorted, you can actually see that here. You can observe that right now these are sorted as per the age, because function sort order is having a logic on how the comparison needs to be done. This is very verbose code, and that is where writing a very small syntax for the closure becomes very important, and we need to achieve this syntax. Now the question is, how do I move from passing a function as an argument to write this particular set of statements in a very concise fashion? Well, we will do it in a stepwise manner. You can pretty much remove this whole stuff, that is function and sort order, and put these arguments that you were passing to the function inside the flower brackets and write a im statement. This is how you declare a closure, and you can pretty much copy paste this whole stuff inside the sorted method and replace the sort order function, because you don't have that anymore. And if you do this, it should work perfectly fine. So as you can see here, it is working still perfectly fine. Only the difference is we have removed the function sort order, and whatever the body of the function that we had written for the sort order function, we have replaced the whole thing inside sorted function argument. But once again, this is very verbose, especially when we already know that sorted function arguments need to be two elements which return a bool value. Writing it once again here is redundant. So what Swift allows you to do is pretty much remove that. But once you remove that, it will give me error saying that person1 and person2 are not resolved, because these two were actually written as the part of the argument in the function definition. So what Swift does is it automatically generates values for the two arguments that you typically pass in a closure. Depending upon the number of arguments a function takes, we can write $0, $1, $2, $3 like this. So in this case, we are passing two arguments, so we can replace person1 with $0 and person2 with $1, and it still works perfectly fine, and you can see that our code is still sorting it perfectly fine. Looking at this, can we still reduce it? Of course we can reduce it. What Swift allows you to do is you can remove this function body and put it outside the sorted by function declaration, and this is called as a trailing closure. It is perfectly legal way of writing a closure. And not only that, you can even remove this function invocation parenthesis and just put trailing closure, and as you can see, we are not getting any error, and still our code is working perfectly fine. Can we still reduce it? If you recall, this whole thing is a Boolean expression evaluation. So having a if else statement doesn't actually make sense. So instead of writing if else statements, what I can simply do is just write return this Boolean expression. And since we are already aware that this particular closure is supposed to return a Boolean expression, no need to write even return. So you can just write the Boolean expression that needs to be evaluated inside the closure. This is exactly what we had written earlier. And now this is how you typically write a closure. This is the very concise way of writing a closure in Swift. And when you can write it in such a small, concise manner, the code becomes even more readable. Let's assume that instead of sorting by age, I wanted to sort it by first name. All I had to do was $0 first name and $1 first name. And now if you observe the sorted people array, you will observe that now they have been sorted as per the first name. And in the same way, you can just go ahead and try to do many other things. Let me try to filter the people whose nationality is, say for example, Indian. Let me call it as Indians. And what I can do is people dot filter, and as you can see here, it already shows you should basically pass an element which returns me a Boolean. So what I can do is I can write $0 dot nationality equals Indian. And now if you print Indians, it should give me only those people whose nationality is Indian. If I am interested in, say, Russian, I can just replace that. Let me call it as Russians. And if I try to see the content of the new filtered value, you can see that now it is filtering me only Russians. So this is what makes closures very powerful, and this is how you will actually use closures in writing very simple and highly readable code to do these kind of sorting, filtering, or it could be anything depending upon how much complicated stuff you want to do in your application. There is of course more to discuss in closure, but at the beginner level, this much information is more than sufficient as far as closures are concerned. In the next video, we will move on to next topic in Swift. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.